Yo, what's going on, dudes? Hopefully everyone's doing okay, so welcome back to the channel. So in this video I thought we'd talk about cornering, what's involved, the way that I do it, and also counter steering. So cornering is without a doubt one of the most fun things you can do on a bike, but you also have to be aware that it can also be one of the most dangerous things to do on a bike if not done correctly. So I'm not a fast rider by any means, but I do like to think of myself as a safe rider, and I manage to get around corners just fine. You know, I don't hold up traffic, I can have a bit of fun all while maintaining a half decent pace, not going too fast, and making sure that you're getting around the corners nice and safely. So my last video was on limit points, and it's something you should really look into learning. I'll leave a link up in the corner for you to go and check it out if you've not looked into limit points yet, but for the sake of this video I'm going to assume that you do know about limit points. So what we'll do is we'll quickly go over some things that you shouldn't do while cornering, and then what we'll do is we'll stop somewhere, have a wee chat, and then we'll go around some corners in the area and I'll talk you through what I'm doing as I'm going around them. So a few of these things we have spoke about before in the braking video and the limit point video, but the first thing you always should do is make sure that all your braking is done in a straight line. You know, don't be braking going around the corner, you don't want to be doing that. And you never ever, under any circumstances, want to accelerate going into a corner. You don't want to do that. Accelerating into a corner could throw you away off the wrong line. Alright, so brake upright, brake in plenty of time, and don't accelerate while you're going into the corner. And just to let you know as well, dudes, I'm using a new microphone today. My other microphone just wasn't cutting it the last couple of videos. I've actually recorded this video before, but the audio was all messed up, so I'm having to re-record it. So hopefully this new mic is doing the job. We went with the purple Panda. It was recommended to me a few times online, so that's what we're using. So you've got three main parts of a corner. You've got the entry, the mid, and the exit. So the theory behind cornering is relatively simple, and we'll go over all that shortly. Take note that it's not going to happen straight away. Alright, as soon as you pass your test, it doesn't mean that you can go around corners like an absolute champ. It doesn't mean that by any means. It just means that you're good enough to pass your test, and the real learning starts once you get out on the road by yourself. And cornering is one of those things that it's going to take time. So like everything we've talked about since I started this channel, anything to do with riding a bike, it takes time. So take your time while doing it, and just remember that you've got to be patient and build up that skill level, build up that confidence, and just allow it to happen. Alright, don't try and force it, just allow it to happen. Alright, then after time you'll gradually notice that you're getting better and better, you're getting smoother and smoother, and you'll start to notice that you're able to take corners a wee bit quicker. Alright, but there's absolutely no rush to get to that point. Okay. Oh man, roadworks again. Oh my god. Okay, they're not even on yet. Result. Basically, what you need to do is prepare. By preparing, you're giving yourself as much time to do what you need to do to take on that corner. Alright, we've spoke about this a lot before, and it's where you look. You know, you're looking away up in front as far as you can. Alright, you're seeing corners, you know what's coming, you know what you have to do. So there's a couple of things that you can do. Position wise with the bike, you can absolutely stay in position 2 through the corners. You know, there's absolutely no problem with that. That's pretty much how I rid my whole mod 2, and it was absolutely fine. But there are things that you can do to help you while cornering. So if you're going to go around a right hand corner, what you can do is you can go in to position 1. Remember that video we spoke about positions? Position 1, position 2 and position 3. You can also do that while cornering. So if you're going around a right hand corner, if you go into position 1, that's doing a number of different things. The first thing it's doing is it's increasing your limit point, and by increasing your limit point, it's giving you a better view of the road ahead and the corner. The second thing it's doing is it's making you safer. Alright, because you're going around the right hand corner, what happens if there's a vehicle coming round in the opposite direction to cut over the white line? You are nowhere near that white line, you're away over in position 1. So this is going around a right hand corner. Remember, we'll talk about the left in a minute. And the third thing it does is it can make the corner slightly easier it means that you can take a nice sweeping turn. You know, you've got plenty of room to your right to lean the bike and go around the corner. So if I was over, say, in this position 3, and I was going round a right hand corner, if I leant over, my head's going to be over that line. Riding through a town like this, position 2 is absolutely fine. The corners, you know, the radius of the corners is nothing. You know, you can go around the corners without having to adjust your bike at all. But going over to position 1, it keeps you safe, it gives you a better view of the road, it increases your limit point, and it gives you just that little bit extra space to kind of lean the bike round the corner. So the left hand turn in the UK is by far the most dangerous, and the reason for that is because we drive on the left hand side of the road. So if you look at this corner just now, we're coming around this left hand corner. If we were, for whatever reason, to go across that line, the middle line, we're straight into oncoming traffic. But the principle is exactly the same, except you change your position slightly, so you can go over to the white line if you want. Just like position 1, you can go over to position 3. I don't recommend doing that, and you'll also see that a lot of instructors don't recommend doing that. A lot of information online, they don't recommend you do that, and the reason being is because you're putting yourself in harm's way. You're going so close to the line that if there was something coming round the corner and you clip that vehicle, that's all it takes is that clip, the bike's unsettled. I mean, you can absolutely go into position 3 if you want, it's entirely up to you. I mean, I'm not going to tell you you can't do that, that's entirely the rider's decision. I'm just making you aware that that can be very dangerous doing that. So what I would recommend, and what a lot of riders recommend, is for a left hand turn, just stay in position 2. Stay in position 2, and you'll find yourself maybe drifting over to the inside towards position 1. That's absolutely fine, because you're going with the flow of the corner anyway. I'm going to go over what your bike does through the corner in a second. I just want to get these positions cleared up first. If you wanted, you could create a new position, and I call it position 2.5. I don't actually know if there's a position 2.5, but position 2.5 is between position 2 and position 3. So you're basically just outside position 2. I suppose you could do it between 1 and 2 as well, create a position 1.5, but it makes more sense going around the left hand corner, so having a position 2.5. Alright, so you can use position 2 or position 2.5 going around a left hand corner, and the reasons are exactly the same. Trying to improve how much you can see around the corner, you're trying to increase your limit point, and you're trying to make the corner slightly easier, and by staying away from the centre line, you're also making it safer. The one thing to remember about positioning on roads is never ever sacrifice safety for road position. Your life is worth a whole lot more than the position on a road. Alright, if you can't take a position you want to get round the corner because it's unsafe, then it's unsafe. Don't do it. So that's pretty much how positions work. What we'll do is we'll go and park up, we'll talk about it briefly. I'll put some diagrams up on screen so it's easier to understand, because when you look at it, you can actually, you know, rather than try to visualize it, it's easier to see the line of the corner. And then we'll go over throttle, gears, all that sort of stuff, and then we'll go out for a wee ride, go around some corners. I'll talk you through what I'm doing. So I'll put diagrams up here so you can see just a little bit better. So if you're going around a right hand corner, you can go over to position 1. You can stay in position 2, like I said, it's entirely up to you. But if you go over to position 1, everything's in your favour. Alright, you are getting a better view of the corner, you're increasing your limit point, you're giving yourself a little bit of space to your right, just in case something comes over the centre line. And also, by having that extra space, what you can do is you can go round the corner, and when you hit the apex of the corner or the midpoint of the corner, your bike is actually over in roughly about kind of position 2. So you're making the corner easier for yourself, you're giving yourself more room to manoeuvre around the corner. You can absolutely, if you want, go to the extreme and go from position 1, and as you hit the apex you're actually way over in position 3. But I don't like riding like that, purely because of what we spoke about already. Stuff could come round the corner, come over the centre line, and you don't want that. You obviously don't want that. And going for the left hand corner, you can absolutely go into position 3. I'm not telling you to do it, I'm not telling you not to do it, I'm just telling you the way that I do it. And I don't do it because it's dangerous. Alright, so I would stay in position 2, or if you want position 2.5, like we spoke about, just create a new position, position 2.5, and it's exactly the same. You are increasing the view of the road ahead, you're increasing your limit point, you're giving yourself that little bit of space either side in case you need to move, because obviously any corner, doesn't matter if it's left or right, if you can't see what's round the corner, you have to be very, very cautious, because there could be debris, there could be gravel, dirt, you know, horse manure, anything like that on the road that's going to cause you to kind of manoeuvre out the way of it. And by giving yourself a little bit of leeway where you can move, you know, that's a win-win situation, isn't it? So the corner, there are 3 points. There's the entry point, the midpoint, apex, and the exit. So by preparing for the corner, what you're doing is you're making your life a lot easier. So if we're coming up to a right hand corner, I know what I need to do, right? I'm going to get into position 1 nice and early, give myself plenty of time. I'm slowing the bike down to the appropriate speed, or what I think is the appropriate speed, and make sure that you're in a gear where if you have to open it up, the bike's not going to go gug, 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 you know, because the gear's wrong. Make sure you're in a gear where as you leave the exit, you've got more than enough power just to roll on the throttle and away you go. So if you feel the bike going gug, 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 you're too high gear, you need to come down a gear, or maybe even more than that. So make sure that you're in the appropriate gear first. Now there is a thing called neutral throttle. There's another term for it as well, but I can't remember what it is, but I call it neutral throttle. And what that is maintaining the correct amount of power. Alright, so if I'm going round a corner, I've set everything up, I've got the throttle where I want it. By keeping the throttle, so say it's there, and that's my neutral throttle point. What that means is I'm going at the correct speed for the corner, and I don't need to roll off the throttle or roll on the throttle. I'm at a neutral point at the throttle where everything's staying the same. The revs are staying the same, the engine speed's staying the same, and that's my neutral throttle. And by having all of your brakes done, all of your gears done, when you go into the corner, when you initiate the turn, you should be at neutral throttle, roughly at neutral throttle. If for any reason the corner starts to tighten up, limit point comes towards you, roll off. If the corner starts to open up, roll on. So when do you roll on the throttle? That's the big thing, because remember we spoke about not accelerating into a corner. Going into a corner with neutral throttle is definitely the way to go, but how do you know when to put on the throttle? Basically, when you pass the apex or the midpoint of the corner, that's when the corner will start to open up. Not always, it could start to open up and then get tighter into a different corner. Corners come in all variations, but as you pass the apex point or the midpoint of the corner and you can see the corner starting to open up, you would roll on the throttle. Now rolling on the throttle would help bring the bike back up. The way the bike works when it's leaning over, if you imagine that's the bike leaning over, if you cut the power, the bike can lean tighter. If you roll on the power, the bike can't, alright? It's just impossible, alright? If you put on the power, the bike's going to want to start to straighten up, alright? So by rolling on the power after the apex, and once you see the corner opening up, you're able to get the bike back upright and away you go. Now remember, when you put the throttle on, don't go whoop. You don't want to be doing that. Just as you come round the corner, you hit the apex and see the corner start to straighten up, roll on the power gently. Just roll it on gently, there's no need to crank it open, alright? So just make sure that you're getting into position in plenty of time. Make sure that your braking's done before you hit the entry point of the corner. Make sure you're in the right gear. You don't want the thing to be going gug, 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 gug. You want to be able to open up the bike, get the bike straight up and then out the corner nice and safely. So entry point, midpoint, exit point. So entry point, all your braking and your speed should be down if necessary. Midpoint or apex is the middle point of the corner, where in theory that's when you should be able to start applying the power to go towards the exit of the corner, get the bike straight up and then out the corner. So I suppose we should talk about counter steering, alright? Counter steering is one of those weird things that seems to be imprinted into our brain, and we just naturally do it without thinking about it. I mean, I'm sure you've probably done it as a kid, on your BMX, on your mountain bike or whatever. It's something that you just naturally do it. So if I was doing slow manoeuvres, like the U-turn or whatever, or just turning, you know, going slalom, figure of eight, that sort of stuff, you're actually turning the handlebars, aren't you? You're turning the handlebars because you're going nice and slow and you need the bike to turn to get around these tighter turns. But as you're going faster, you can't really do that. You have to use counter steering. Now it's called counter steering. I like to think of it as push steering. That's also another term for it. But push steering makes it easier to understand. If I wanted to go to the right, if I'm going to go around the right corner, everything's done, position's done, all that sort of stuff. If I push on the right bar, now you can do this while sitting on the bike, you don't have to be out on the bike to practice counter steering. If I push on the right bar, see what the bike does? See it? It's leaning over to the right. So by pushing on the right handlebar, we're causing the bike to lean over to the right, and that initiates the turn and allows us to lean the bike round the corner. It's exactly the same with the left. If we were to push on the left, we lean to the left. Now obviously be careful if you're standing still doing it, especially if you're on a big bike or something, because you don't want to lean it over too much where you can't hold it on your leg and you end up dropping the bike. So just be very careful with that. So how and where do you push? So you don't want to push straight like that, and you definitely don't want to push down. Alright, pushing down isn't going to do anything for you. Alright, pushing straight forward, it's fine in a way, but the easier way to do it is at an angle. So if you imagine, see where my levers are? Alright, at that sort of angle, that's the kind of angle you want to push at. Okay, so you want to push forward and downwards. Alright, and that causes the bike to lean. Now it's weird how it does it. When you initiate the lean, the wheel momentarily turns in the opposite direction. I'm not scientific, I can't remember all the scientific terms, why it does it, how it does it, you know. If you're interested in that, if you give it a Google, you'll get all that sort of stuff. But basically, if you look at my left handlebar, I'm going to turn to the right. Watch my left handlebar. See? It turns towards me slightly, which means the wheel is turning to the left. So I'm pushing on the right handlebar. I'm leaning to the right, yet my wheel is pointing to the left slightly. Very slightly. I mean, it's not like that. I'm just talking about very slightly. And it does exactly the same if I was going to go to the left. See that? Crazy, isn't it? Now what you can do is you can actually push and pull. So if you push on the right and pull on the left, you can actually lean over a lot further. But just get used to pushing with one hand first. And it's all about pressure. How much pressure and how fast you do it. Alright, so if I'm going through a nice long sweeping right hand corner, nice gentle push in the handlebars, and it'll take me round. If I was to push really hard and a lot faster, it can cause the bike to lean a lot quicker. There was a thing I read online, I can't remember what it was, I think it was by Motorcycle News. There was some chap who actually studied counter steering for his university degree, and they actually had I think it was, I don't know if it was British Superbikes or what, but they had a guy on a track with devices attached to the bike, and they could tell how much force he was using. I can't remember all the degrees and stuff, but at one point it was going through a chicane or something. This data said that he was using 30 kilos of force, so it was the same as pushing 30 kilos to get the bike to lean round. That's an insane amount of pressure, isn't it? 30 kilos. So that shows you how much you can use to counter steer. So you can use a little bit, or you can use a lot. Alright, so it's something else that you need to practice. Jump on your bike, give it a practice. If you can get somewhere like this, drive in a straight line and just very momentarily do that, and you'll see the bike will go whoop like that. It'll go whoop, and then if you do it the other direction, it'll go whoop like that. Okay, so just get used to that weird feeling, just so you know that you are counter steering. It's a weird thing how we know to do it. It's so strange. And then the last thing is body position. What should you be doing with your body? So you should be really gripping the tank with your legs, you know, not seriously tight, just lightly gripping it. It keeps your bottom half stable, and your top half should be nice and loose. So whenever you're out on the bike, regardless if you're going around corners or not, you should be having a very, very loose grip on the handlebars. You don't want to be gripping them tight. You should be able to take your hand off the handlebar, pretty much. I've seen people talking about putting chicks in their hand, not physically putting a chick in your hand, but imagining that you've got a little baby chick in your hand and you don't want to crush it. That's how much pressure you need. You don't need a lot. And that's the same with the accelerator. You know, I can move my hand around freely and you've still got enough grip to, you know, use the accelerator. So the top half should be nice and loose, grip should be nice and loose. When you're going around the corner, you want to kind of lean forward slightly. It depends on the type of bike you've got, how upright it is. If you're on a sports bike where you're kind of leant over anyway, you know, you don't have to do it as much because you're already in that position. But with a bike like this where I'm upright, leaning forward just a wee bit, not like a way down, but just a wee bit. Try and get your elbows slightly bent, you know. You can go way down like this, but I find that very uncomfortable. So just between about here and about here, this is where I kind of tend to corner. This is my kind of cornering position, and keep everything nice and light. Alright, if you try counter steering where your top half is physically stiff, it's very, very hard to counter steer because your right arm is pushing where your left arm, because it's stiff, is stopping you turning the handlebars. So if you've ever found a point where you're going around a corner and you do something by accident and you freak out a wee bit, we've all done it, and rather than try to stay relaxed, you go, oh my god, and you stiffen up, you find that you can't counter steer and you go, oh my god, I'm not going to make the corner. It's very, very easy to say it, but it's harder to do it. Try and relax. You know, if you find yourself that you're going straight on a wee bit and you need to try and get the bike a bit tighter, don't tense up. Keep everything nice and loose and try and lean the bike more. Cut off the power if you need to, you know, down on the power, lean the bike in, and try and fix the line that you're in. So remember, if you're in that position, try and not tense up, because that's going to basically stop you from counter steering. You can still do it a wee bit, but if you try it, if you put both your arms really tight and try and push, it's not that easy. But if you're nice and relaxed, see, the bike's moving over so much easier, whereas because I'm tight, the bike's not really leaning a lot. Okay, so body position, speed, brakes, gears, all that sort of thing. Get all that done before the corner. I know it sounds a lot, but it's something you can actually do in a matter of seconds. You know, you see the corner and you just prepare for it. So I need to go into that position, on the brakes, down a gear, nice neutral throttle, turn into the corner. There's the apex, I can see the exit, open up, back up, and then on you go. Now you can get corners where they're linked. I'll try and find a few roads out here that are like that. So not every corner is going to go a corner onto a straight. There are a lot of corners like that, obviously, but you might have a corner that goes a right corner, straight into a left, straight into a right, and it's just a series of bends and twists and stuff. So what would you do in that situation? You would basically, when you exit the corner, you would try to get into the position for the next corner. So if I'm going round a right hand corner, I'm in position 1, I'll go round the corner, and because the next corners are left, I'm going to go straight into position 2, position 2.5, round the left hand corner. The next corner is then going to be a right, so I'm going to go into position 1 to take the right corner. So you're constantly moving into the position as you exit the corner. Once you exit the corner, move into the correct position for the next corner, and it all just takes a bit of practice, takes a bit of time. And one thing I should probably say is, when you're doing all that stuff, if you're going through if you're going around lots of twisties, you don't really need to be up and down the gears. If you can find a nice comfortable gear like 3rd or 4th gear, you can just stay in that gear. Alright, it gives you enough power to come out of the corner, and you've got enough just to roll off where you don't have to change down a gear. Alright, so you don't need to be going up and down gears through twisties. Usually if I'm in a twisty bit, maybe doing, you know, 40-50 miles an hour, I'll sit in 4th gear, and I don't need to change until I physically need to change, you know, tighter corner or opens up onto a straight. So there is quite a lot to take in there. Alright, there's a lot to take in, and it's all about practice, you know. And you've got to remember, every single rider has their own riding style. So you might not ride like me at all, and you might do something completely different, and that's fine. It's absolutely fine. But the one thing to take into account from all of this is, as long as you're doing it safely, alright? Do it safely and you'll be absolutely fine. So what we'll do is we'll have a wee ride about, we'll try and find some corners, and I'll talk you through what I'm doing as we're going round them. Just before we do that though, I'm going to quickly do that counter steering thing that I was talking about. What we'll do, we'll turn around and use this road here. Push on the right, we go to the right. Push on the left, we go to the left. It's so cool. So you can see for corners like this, it is a right hand corner, but the radius is pretty low, isn't it? It's not like it's a tight corner. So you can stay in position 2. I mean, you could go over to position 1 if you want, it's entirely up to you. But going around corners like this, position 2 is absolutely fine. See, I'm not having to do anything with the bike. Nice centre of the road, no need to do anything. So I'm moving over to position 2, 2.5. I'm looking for the limit point. I can see the limit point starting to move away from me. We're going into a right hand corner. I'm going over to position 1, over into position 2, and coming around here, what I can see is it's a nice shallow corner, so I'm going to stay in the middle, move over to position 2.5 for this one. It's slightly tighter, and then after we pass the apex we can put the power on. And that whole bit there, we did not have to change any gear. And I'm going to move out slightly. I'm going to be very wary though, because it's a blind corner, I can't see what's over the hill. Move in to position 1. It's quite a tight corner, this one. I've been round it a few times. You can see as we hit the apex, we're in position 2. We can open up the throttle and out the corner. You can also use all the cars in front of you as a guide. You know, are they braking? Are they slowing down? When they go around the corner, you can see how tight it is. You know, obviously if you don't have that in front of you, then it's going to be your own judgment. But be careful when you go around corners, especially if they're blind corners. You know, what could be coming the other way, what could be on my side of the road. You know, a parked car, a tractor, you know, a driveway, a gate where something could come out. You know, you've got to take all that into consideration. So for this corner, I can't really see around it, so I'm going to back off the power a wee bit. Over, the limit point's opened up, and see how it was just outside position 2 there, and that was more than enough room to get round that corner. This one's pretty much the same. I know this corner pretty well, but we can't see it because of the limit point. The limit point's coming towards us slightly. Backing off the throttle, round the corner, there's the apex, open up throttle. Just watching this red van up here, because I don't really know what his intentions are, if he's seen me or not. No, he's gone the other way anyway. And as I'm going into the corner, I'm using neutral throttle, and as I pass the apex, that's my cue, as long as I've got a clear view of the road ahead, to roll on the throttle. Now look at this one for instance, we've got a slow marker in the road, so that's telling us that this corner's going to be a lot tighter. So over to position 1, I'm looking at that limit point, it's starting to move away from us. There's the apex, on the throttle, and out the corner. Again, slow markers here. What's the road doing? I'm looking at the road, there's a junction to my left, so I'm just going to keep over to the right slightly. Now I can smell manure, I can see it on the side of the road, so I know that a farmer's probably been along here recently. I can see a lot of dry mud and stuff on the road, so I'm just going to take my time coming around these corners, because obviously we don't want to be going through wet mud on a motorbike. You absolutely don't want to be doing that. Right, there's some nice twisties along this way, so we'll go along here and we'll try and link it all together for you to give you a rough idea. So we're coming into a nice little section, so what you might be looking for, you're looking at the sign, you know, twisties for 1.5 miles. So we're going to take it nice and easy coming around here. I can stay in position 2 for this, there's absolutely no reason to move. I'm going to move over to position 1 for this corner. Nice and easy. We don't really need to change anything, we're in neutral throttle, we don't have to change it. What we're constantly looking for, that limit point, that's what we're constantly doing. We're making sure that that limit point is giving us all the information that we need. So there's the apex of the corner. I would open it up a bit more, but obviously we're straight into a different corner, so you're trying to link all of these corners together. And also pay attention to what's round about you, you know, signs, road markings, all this sort of stuff. Again, there's a sign there telling me that the next corner is slightly tighter, so I'm just looking for that limit point. I'm going to move over slightly, just outside position 2, not too much though, and there is our cue to start slowing down. Round the apex of the corner, back out into position 2. I'm going to move over to position 1 here for this corner. As you can see, we've got another right tight corner coming up. Well, I say tight, it's tighter. So over to position 1, round, there's the apex, I'm in position 2, moving just outside position 2 for the left-hander. You can see that my bike is constantly moving across the road as I'm going round the corner. Coming over to the right, I know from experience this one's slightly tighter, so I'm going to slow down just a bit, move across the road into position 2, back into position 1 because we're going on a right-hander, even though we're into a 30, so it's going to be nice and simple anyway. You could have came round there in position 2, absolutely no problem. It would have been absolutely fine. But by being in certain positions, it makes it corner slightly easier to navigate. It's giving you more information. It takes a while to get used to, you know, I'm not absolutely perfect at it, you know, but I try my best. And to keep yourself safe, remember what I said earlier on, you should never ever sacrifice safety for road position. So if you're in doubt at all, take the safer position. Don't go out to the side of the road or to the inside of the road, whatever. So just remember that cornering can be fun, but it can also be dangerous, and it's all about planning ahead. You know, don't leave it to the last minute to decide, oh, I'm going to cut off over here or whatever. Plan in plenty of time. You see a corner, get into position early. Look at the limit point. What is the limit point doing? Slow down if you need to. When you're entering the corner, go in on a nice neutral throttle on the right gear. When you pass the apex of the corner, that's when the corner should start to open up. Not always, depends on what kind of corner you're on, but when you pass the apex, roll on the throttle, providing you've got a clear view out of the corner, and then bring the bike back up and then into the relevant position for whatever it is you need to do next, either back into position 2 to carry on a straight, or back into a different position to take whatever type of corner it is. You can learn the theory behind it until you're blue in the face. It doesn't mean you're going to be able to go around the corner. Alright, learning the theory of it is a massive part of it because you need that knowledge, but actually taking your bike and physically going round the corners, practicing what it is you need to look at, when you need to turn, when you need to roll on the throttle, when you need to roll off the throttle, all that sort of stuff. The only way you're going to learn that is by practicing it. Unfortunately, there's no shortcut for it. It's not like studying for your theory test, you know, you just learn the questions, learn the answers, understand why that answer is that answer, and then go and take a test. It's not as simple as that. You have to physically go out and practice it, but it's good fun. It is good fun as long as you take it slowly. Remember, slow in, fast out. As long as you take corners slowly going in, and once you pass the apex you can roll on the power and come out faster. Slow in, fast out, and just apply everything that you've learnt. You'll be absolutely fine. But as always, dudes, if you've got any questions regarding this stuff or even any of the other videos that are on my channel, please feel free to get in touch. Congratulations to everyone who's passing their mod 1s and their mod 2s. You guys are flooding me with messages, which is absolutely amazing to hear, so congratulations to those guys. But if you've got any tests coming up, all the best. I'm sure you'll absolutely smash it. But anyway, dudes, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have, guys, give it a thumbs up. I really do appreciate every single one of your likes, and of course, if you want to see all of my uploads, click on that subscribe button and ring the bell while you're there. That way you'll get notified every time I upload a video. But until next time, dudes, stay safe, ride safe, and take it easy.